You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.
I said, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. I said, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. We're gonna drink a fine whiskey and smoke a really fine cigar. I said, hey, ladies, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. I said, hey, ladies, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. You're welcome to drink our whiskey and smoke our really fine cigars. One more time, boys. I said, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. I said, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. We're gonna smoke a really good cigar and drink a really fine whiskey.
It is happy hour. Welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. I'm Jamie Flanagan.
I am Matthew Fox. Welcome.
We are here. It's whiskey, spirits, cigars, and the stories that go along with it. Today, Matthew and I ventured out into the very, very cold Michigan winter.
We went out on the road. It took us about an hour and a half to get out here. We kind of came northeast.
That's it.
Yep.
And puts us into the heart of Lansing.
We are in downtown Lansing. We are at the very first distillery ever in Lansing.
That is American Fifth Spirits.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
So we have owner Rick and master distiller. Can we call you master distiller?
Sure.
All right.
Or mad scientist. What do you prefer?
Cars is our distiller today, and we're gonna get the story behind American Fifth Spirits, and there's like a whole array of things. We've been tweeting out the pictures. There's a whole array of bottles on the table, and a flight in front of us is just trouble waiting to happen. Rick, thank you for having us.
Thanks for coming.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about American Fifth. How long have you been here in Lansing? And then how did you become American Fifth Spirits?
Sure. So we opened in April of 2015, so we're coming up on 4 years.
Oh, fantastic.
And when we opened up, we just started with vodka, and we were contracting that with a local distillery here.
Okay.
And so after we actually opened up our doors and had the equipment and everything set up, then we released a gin and then white whiskey, because every small distiller had to have a white whiskey at some point.
White whiskey. So we've been around the block a couple of times, and I have yet to try a white whiskey.
A white whiskey?
Oh, we can do that if you want.
So okay.
Are you a good witch or a bad witch? It's the white whiskey. It's probably the bad witch, even though it's the white one.
Yeah. Thankfully, that trend has kind of moved away since us distillers are getting older, and we have some older stock of aged goods. So we were making whiskey fervently during that time, and so now we're a few years into it, and we have some pretty good inventory of some aged goods.
Yeah. You took us on a small tour not too long ago, and you've got quite the stock going on, and you have a lot of work ahead of you.
Yes, and we could always use more.
Yes.
So beyond that, though, my background is I actually came from beer and wine wholesaling, so I did that for just over a decade prior to this, and then the distilling laws basically changed. It was more the licensing laws, not the distilling laws, changed here in Michigan back in 2008. And then that's when distilling kind of popped up on my radar. Being that I had worked with Michigan breweries and Michigan wineries for such a long time, I wanted to build my own brand, and that proverbial third leg of the bar stool that had been yet untapped was spirits. So I started studying distilling at that point.
Nice. So how did you and Cars ended up connecting to?
I'll let Cars tell that story.
Okay.
How in detail do we want to get on this? I don't know.
Just tell the truth, man.
I'm no longer under an NDA, so
Right.
Yeah. The aforementioned other local distillery was where I started out.
Okay.
And I kind of poached myself, I guess, is one way of saying.
That's very true.
Yeah. No, I won't name who they are, but with enough research, it won't be hard to guess.
All right. Fair enough.
But I just kind of reached out to Rick one day. I was like, hey, you want to get drinks and talk about some stuff? And it's like, sure.
So I worked with you over there, correct?
Very briefly.
Yeah, it wasn't very much.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because when you were working with them, I was still a bartender over there. I wasn't a distiller yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'd
that
like
wasn't
to-
in Lansing, though. They're nearby?
They're not technically in Lansing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how you're Lansing's first distillery.
Yeah.
I was going to say, well, if you're getting your juice from somebody else, how are you the first? Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So technically, you're an asshole.
Carl's judge of character is amazing. If we meet one time, he's like, "Hey, I want to work for that guy." He's pretty astute.
That's great. All right. So how long had you been at this other place? How long have you been?
I was there for under a year.
Okay.
Okay.
I worked there kind of in a roundabout way when I was still at Michigan State for my undergrad.
Okay. So how does one become a mad scientist? What's your degree and what kind of training did you have?
This is perfect for podcasts.
Yeah.
He's wearing a Michigan Tech shirt.
Yeah. So I had my
chemical
Michigan Tech
engineering.
sweatshirt. Went to Michigan Tech for a year. Decided it was too out in the middle of ass end of nowhere.
Right.
Yeah, which it is.
Yeah.
Still a great school.
Yep.
But Michigan State for the other rest of my college career, also for chemical engineering.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of what most of my peers at chemical engineering decided, they wanted to make money and have a cushy desk job. I wanted to be able to drink at work.
Okay.
So,
Dow Chemical Distiller.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. Yeah. So, I just followed my passion instead of
There
the
you go.
money.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So is there, because from what I understand, Michigan State has some really innovative, and it's a place that people go when they're testing things out. And there's some incredible mentors there. Did you work with those people
I
at
did.
State?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So is that a specialized program? Once you have your chemical engineering, is there something that's more specialized for distilling? And did you do that?
Yes. So when I was there, man, I graduated 4 years ago now. Time flies.
Yeah.
So when I was there, they had the beverage science program. It wasn't really a minor; it was more of a concentration,
Sure.
I guess. I'm not even sure if it still exists.
It's there in some form.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's been a few shakeups at Michigan State that the program almost disappeared.
Oh.
Yeah.
A little while ago. So
Curriculums will change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be there.
Yeah, it's in some form. It's there, I guess.
So, all right.
Yeah.
So, but there's a concentration. There's a beverage. You said it's called beverage.
Beverage science.
Beverage
so you learn
science.
about beer, wine, spirits, non-alcoholic stuff, but that stuff isn't fun. So
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. So, what made you want to do the distilling of spirits over, say, one of the microbrews or beers? How did you find yourself?
I started out wanting to do beer.
Oh, okay.
But,
Okay.
I don't know. Something changed at some point. I couldn't
Yeah.
even tell you what.
Yeah. See, now the thing is, there's so many, microbrews and at the Grand Rapids area and this area, it's just crazy with them. I love the places. I hate the beers. I absolutely. I just, if I go into one of those, I'm like, do you have PBR, please?
Yeah, right.
It's like if we don't have Guinness, PBR, I'll have a damn water or give me some whiskey.
Yeah.
Because it's like I love the places. Most of the places are incredible. But just the beers themselves, not so much. That's why the man cave is about the whiskey and the spirits.
Yeah,
Because leaving the microbrews, there's plenty other the beer tour guy and the better
I'll
on
do a beer
draft.
tour.
and
I'll drink a good beer every once
all
in a
those
while.
all those guys. But all right, so this space, and you've been here for 4 years.
Correct.
And let me compliment you on this space. It's a very, very cool space. It's the tasting room.
Thank you.
And you have big windows where you can see the distilling process going on, and more windows out into the back into the rack room where you can see the barrels taking their naps. Tell us about this place. Is there anything special about this building, or is it just kind of? It's very cool.
Well, thank you. Really, this was, I think, the third or fourth location that we looked at.
Okay.
And it really, truly is all, the old adage, location.
Sure.
The first one at the very beginning, because I put this concept together back in 2009.
Okay.
It was during the Great Recession, and you couldn't get lending at all, so it kind of went on the back burner. But this area in downtown Lansing has completely turned around.
Yeah.
It was a bit serendipitous for us to get here because a lot of the stuff that has happened that you see, especially in the ballpark and
You got the Lansing Lugnuts playing right across the street from you.
Yeah.
so-
correct, and the new soccer team, which is happening this summer, spring. It'll be the only professional soccer team in the state of Michigan.
Oh.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's big news around here too. But there's a lot of development. We have a new hotel coming in, a spitting distance from the outside of our front door here. That'll be done by 2020. So all of this has kind of happened after we took possession of this building and got the distillery going. There's this thing called placemaking, which I was completely unfamiliar with.
Okay.
Help me understand placemaking.
It is a concept where you basically build things that people want to be at. So you're establishing a place. It's policy and there's a lot of NGOs and stuff like that talk about it. And being that we're in Lansing, there's always policy talk here because of the government.
No idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things that we're contributing to the revitalization of the Lansing area.
Sure.
It wasn't my intent.
Sure.
I wanted to make booze
Yeah.
and have a cool place for people to learn about cocktails and spirits and everything like that. And as it turns out, that's a movement that's happening across the country.
Yeah.
I like
Timing
this.
is everything.
I like the space.
Yep.
So when you come in to American Fifth Spirits, you can come in. You guys are open 6 days a week,
6 days a week. Yep.
and then there's a really big Half Moon bar, just wonderfully stocked with all of your spirits. And then there's comfortable couches near the cold windows. There's several tables. There's games. You can board games, and people can play and hang out. There's cool music playing. It's a really cool vibe. Do you ever do live music in here?
We don't. That's a whole nother licensing thing.
Fair play. Yeah.
That we just had a meeting about it today that we're kicking around to go visit that again. So.
Sure. And then you have what is it called? The Crystal Club.
Yeah. So that's our version of a mug club.
It's your version. You got numbered tumblers in these peg type boards up on the wall, so people can join that. They get a discount.
Correct. Yep. There's an annual fee. I think it's $55 the first year, $30 or $35 every year after that. You get to take your tumbler home with you at the end of every year when you renew, and then it's 15% off all cocktails, merchandise, food.
Okay.
And then we do special promotions throughout the year. Like you get first access to new releases that we have.
Wow.
And then we'll do a couple Crystal Club member appreciation months.
$55 the first year, and then $35 every year thereafter.
Yep.
I'm thinking membership is a good way to go.
Has privilege. Yes. So as you come in, like I said, your bar is stocked with your spirits. Is that all you can sell? We're talking about licensing earlier
Correct.
as well. Uncle Sam wants his money. So what can you sell here?
As far as what goes into a cocktail, alcohol-wise, it has to be made here.
Okay.
So that is what we are limited to. So that's why you see, 10 different flavors of vodka back there. We have a couple different flavors of whiskey. We make all our own liqueurs. We make all our own syrups. We juice. Everything is fresh juices. So
your staff was walking in with just loads of groceries and lime and lemons and oranges, just walking in and just smelling it as they're walking by.
It's a daily routine, juicing, and making syrups and things.
Excuse me.
I like it. I like it a lot. So beers and wines, that's not so much. It's just the spirits. And that's all you got.
Yep.
What about food? Is there a little bit of, I notice
we do
snacks?
just some cold snacks. We don't have a full kitchen, but we do allow people to bring in food.
Okay.
So with Uber Eats and Grubhub and everything like that now, it's pretty easy to get whatever food you want.
Right on. Love the place. So, been here for 4 years. You started with the vodka, so maybe that's where we'll start. Tell us a little bit about what vodkas are available right now, and we're staring down a gold medal 2015 micro liquors and spirits.
Correct. Yeah. So this is our this is our vodka. This is American Fifth vodka. We originally went to the market years ago as Hugh vodka. And our gin was Capital Gin, and we had a Fat Five whiskey. So we pulled back from that last year and rebranded everything as American Fifth. So this is just American Fifth vodka.
Okay.
So it's 100% Michigan soft red winter wheat, and it's vodka.
It's a wheat vodka.
And it's vodka.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very sweet. It's got a very sweet taste to it. Sure. For my palate, it's very sweet.
Well, how often do you drink vodka by itself?
Not very.
Yeah, most people don't. So we use 100 parts per million of glycerol or something like that.
Yep.
So that might contribute to that a little bit.
Okay.
So the vodka, from what I understand, you're still back there. You have to you still outsource this somewhat?
Correct. Yes. Yeah, we've used a number of distilleries around the state, and still do. And basically, we're just running their equipment. We source the grain, we send the grain down to them, and then they process it. For us.
Okay. So you still, it's kind of your recipe that you dictate to them.
Yep.
More or less just renting their equipment in a way.
Sure.
You walk in and say, hey, I got all the stuff I need to make, so I'm going to borrow that for a moment, right?
Right.
All right.
Very cool. So it's all American Fifth Spirits. You've rebranded, so it's a one-stop shop in the name.
Yes.
Trying to remember 10 different things is always a pain.
It's a difficult marketing challenge, too.
Absolutely. So American Fifth Spirits, but you did have another vodka. You said this one was wheat.
Right.
There was a corn one that you did at the behest of the lug nuts.
Correct. Yes. They pronounce it Lug because there's an umlaut over the U.
It's got the umlauts on it. Yeah.
Correct.
So it's rock and roll. It's not rock and roll till you have the umlauts on it.
So yeah, that's a 100% Michigan corn vodka. And the reason we did it separately is just to differentiate it from what it is we do. So that's available basically only at the stadium.
Okay. Can people get it here?
Yes, you can buy it here.
Okay.
Correct.
Right.
But yeah, that's the only two places.
So, what's your price point on the vodkas? Where are you at when someone wants to come in? Are there flavored versions of this? You said you have flavors. Did you infuse these? Is there a flavored one available?
We just infuse them in house.
Okay.
And we're using usually pretty fresh ingredients with that.
Right.
So us going to market with them, they are not UV stable or
Sure,
anything like
sure.
that. So we have not released anything flavored. We just go out with this one vodka, and it's $25 on the shelf. That's the state minimum price, $24.99. So we're right in there. We're one of the more affordable Michigan-made vodkas. But my personal opinion is the days of charging more because we're craft are over, and we need to get more in line with our national competitors, price-wise.
So I like it. I liked it.
That's
I
very
liked
good.
it. And so what's the difference in the process because everything else, the gin and the whiskeys are here? Everything else is done here, the gins and the whiskeys?
So the gin is the vodka base. So we redistill the vodka for the gin.
Okay. So,
And then, the whiskeys is completely done grain to glass in here.
Is that how gin
Love
is
that.
typically done? It's a re-fermentation of another spirit?
I wouldn't say re-fermentation.
Not fermentation, but a redistilling of...
to some degree, yes.
Yeah.
We do a London dry style as far as the manufacturing, not the flavor.
London dry style?
Would it just be dry style?
Dry style?
I have no idea.
So dry style?
It's a dry style. Whereas you can macerate too, and then distill with the botanicals and everything in the mash.
Okay.
But that tends to be a lot. I don't want to say dirtier, but it kind of coats the inside of the still more. So if we had a still that was devoted just to gin production, we could do it that way. But since we're doing everything on one still, we want to keep it as clean as possible.
Okay.
At the first nose on the gin, I'm getting citrus, real lemon out of this at the moment. So curious to see what the palate's going to say.
Yeah. Sam, are you diving in over there? All right. Look at her. Yeah, no.
There's the ginger.
Yes.
Okay, now I get the ginger on that too. Yeah, it noses with the citrus, but the ginger really is really good on that.
Talk about this?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You got that ginger.
This is your recipe,
Very much
man.
so.
All right.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'll keep talking.
It's a beautiful recipe. That's
you.
really good. I'm not a big gin drinker. I typically will stick with the whiskey or a bourbon or what have you, but I've never been a big gin drinker. This would change my mind.
Thank you.
It is really, really good.
We hear that a lot in here. Gin is my favorite spirit.
Okay.
And so I wanted to make a gin that was approachable to people who don't like gin.
Sure.
And on top of that, we have 5 gins total available in our tasting room. And so the botanical makeup of this is going to be juniper because that's required by law in order to be gin. It has to be, have the predominant flavor of juniper, which is subjective because my predominant is different than your predominant.
Sure.
And so forth. And then we follow that up with ginger, lemon peel, lemon thyme, pink peppercorn, angelica root, and cardamom. Are the 7 botanicals. And I want to say it took about, I did the math, it was like 35 or 42 different variations to settle on this recipe.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from what I understand, the clearer spirits are a little quicker through the production process. There's not the long aging. You don't really age vodka. You don't age the gin. So
we do have some barrel aged gin, by the way. Though.
Oh, okay.
Do you?
Okay.
Nice little segue.
That's it. So you were able. That's usually people start with those because that's what they can get out.
We could turn this, even if we had a vodka still, we could be grain to glass on vodka in a weekish.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit longer.
Yep.
So
Did you you actually do all the mashing here on site, right back in the parking lot. So that's why grain to glass. That's where that comes from,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
Yep.
So
awesome.
love that.
And one more thing about the gin is
Yeah.
we won a bronze medal for this at the 2018 San Francisco World
Congratulations.
Spirits
Okay,
Competition.
yeah.
That's fantastic.
Which I think is fantastic because we'll talk about the bourbon, which we won a gold medal for, but there's multiple categories of whiskey. There's only one category of gin.
Oh,
So we were up against every other gin produced in the world that was submitted last year and came away with a bronze medal.
Wow,
So
that's fantastic.
I'm pretty proud of that.
Should be.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
it is. It's well worth it. Like just the ginger in it, and it noses so well with the citrus, and then that ginger when it hits you in a really good way. I
like it.
Yeah, I really do.
I do. Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, I like that one. The trunk's
May I
gonna
have
be
another,
full.
please?
We don't have to cross the state line to get home, do we? We're gonna have to all Smokey and Bandit it if we do.
We do have a driver.
All right, cool. So that moves us on to the White Witch. I mean, the white whiskey.
Well, actually, no, we pulled that for you. So that's not white whiskey. We're actually going to skip this one. We're going to move down to the
play.
bourbon.
All right.
So move down to the bourbon at the end.
All right.
Oh, so this is your gold medal.
This is your gold medal.
Bourbon.
Correct. Yep.
So this is just American Fifth Spirit bourbon.
Mhm.
Yeah, I had I talked to I believe Josh as your representative.
Correct.
Yeah.
There was a big event downtown Detroit in the Fisher Building, and it was Halls of Whiskey, and there's tons of whiskey distributors and distillers there plying their wares, and then that's where I met Josh. We started chit chatting, got me in touch with you. I tried it there. I tried it there, and I was enjoying it. But I was probably 7 whiskeys deep. I was enjoying everything. Though.
Yeah.
So what do we got with American Fifth Spirit on the bourbon?
I'm done talking. It's your turn.
Oh,
Yeah.
Come on, cars, bring it.
So, Cars, what is the process on this, and what's the mix?
If you look at our fun little cue cards that come with
Well, before I even looked at it, I gave it a nose.
Yep.
And I did get a hint of. It's gonna sound weird. I got a hint of vanilla.
okay,
got a little
yeah,
hint
no,
of
that's
vanilla.
fair. Yeah,
Then I looked at it. I'm like, oh look, vanilla. Right?
you know what you're doing. Yeah,
reason.
you're already a pro taster.
Thank you. But yeah, I kind of got that hint because I love a good vanilla flavor.
But to be a bourbon, it has to be over 50% corn, correct?
Yep,
Right.
it has to be
And
at
this is
least
just-
51% corn,
Okay.
aged in a new charred American oak barrel, and produced somewhere in the U.S.
Okay.
Right.
There any other regulations I'm missing there?
Nope.
So
Yeah.
we're at
It can sit in your
we're
mom's
at
basement still.
63% corn on this.
Yep.
Where's your corn come from?
Oh, the corn came from what? Williamston?
Yeah, we pull corn from a few different places. Williamston, we've pulled it out of the LC before. I think even the Grand Rapids area
Yep.
when we're
But
in a pinch.
Michigan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's all
Michigan.
Michigan.
We
Correct.
call it maize, even though we're in Lansing. No. Oops, sorry, bad word. I got my undergrad at
Gotcha.
U of M
Sure.
in Dearborn and got my journalism stuff here at State, so I don't know what sweatshirt to wear. I just get confused. But, all right, so we're at 63% corn. What else is happening in this glass?
Oh, we got,
Cars?
20% wheat, 12 malt, and 5% rye. Again, this was another one of Rick's recipes that existed before I got on board.
Okay.
I think we still have maybe one of your barrels sitting back there before I
It's
took
possible.
over.
Yeah.
Took over. Like, this is a hostile thing. Yeah. Oh, man, I don't know. I've been drinking this stuff for a long time, so I can tell right now that this is from one of the smaller barrels.
Oh,
so-
my God. That's wonderful.
right.
So we for a while split up between larger 30-gallon barrels and smaller 15-gallon barrels, just so that we could have aged stuff quicker.
Yeah, the 15 will
Because
age a
it
bit
ages-
quicker than
Yep.
Yeah, more rapidly.
Kind of rule of thumb is smaller the barrel, the quicker it's going to age,
Sure.
just because of surface area to volume ratio.
But you have to be
some
very. I
science
understand
stuff.
you have to be very careful because the taste could change so
Yeah.
drastically on a 15 as opposed to the 30
Yep.
if you wait too long.
Yeah, that's
Right.
another risk you run.
Yeah.
Like we have these little 2-liter barrels sitting up top with our merch.
It's like 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Whenever someone actually buys one of those, it's like, check this thing in 2 weeks max.
Yeah.
It's going to taste like wood and ash.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So,
Disclaimer.
yeah,
Thanks for
exactly.
that.
Yeah, no, I really like this bourbon recipe. Obviously, I would have tried harder to change it if I didn't like it at this point.
Yeah.
Typically, when I do drink bourbon, it's higher rye stuff, but the 5% rye in this still comes through a little bit, gives a little bit of bite,
Right.
just at the very end.
What proof is this?
90.
Oh, 90 proof.
Yep.
Okay.
It's got a little bit of a spicy on the end of it. It's actually very smooth, very good.
Thank you.
Very good recipe. There's a reason why this got gold medal, I would imagine.
I would hope so.
Yeah, it's actually Jamie. He's nodding his head. He's saying,
I'm taking so I'm getting
taking it in.
the wood taste afterwards and the fig.
Yep.
I'm feeling the fig in the after. That's nice. I like that.
Yeah, but it's got
I
a
can
nice
smell the
little-
vanilla, but I don't necessarily taste the
I don't
vanilla.
take.
can
I smell it.
it.
I smell it.
Yeah.
Love that.
I like it. Sam, try it. Sam's not a bourbon drinker. She's all right. And so, what's your price point on the bourbon, the American Fifth?
We're on the shelf for $50 for that.
Okay.
Okay.
So people can find the American Fifth spirits where?
We're distributed across the state.
Okay. Are you limited to Michigan right now?
We are limited to Michigan.
Okay.
We're actually heading down to Indiana tomorrow
nice.
to try to figure out some distribution down there.
Break a leg. Yeah.
Is it a legality thing or just your
It's
van only
all-
gets so much gas mileage?
Yeah, no, it's all legal stuff. There's so much wrangling involved with
Sure.
this. So, just figure out who our best options are down there as far as a wholesaler and looking to expand into Indiana this year.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. The government's got their thumb on it that you have to go through a wholesaler.
Correct.
And
But only
yeah.
when they're open.
Yeah,
So-
and
Yeah.
if they were open and running, yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
whole
So
different
that would-
conversation right now.
that would help. All right, so for now, Michigan, do you do any online sales? From what I understand, is it Michigan? We can't do online sales in Michigan, or do you do
We
online?
can. I am looking into it. There's a few online retailers
Yeah.
available, but again, you have to find a wholesaler to go through for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's still some legal wrangling on that end too.
Sure.
So, and knowing that we do want to expand territory, I don't want us to get into a contract in a certain territory that's going to limit us to where we can't go traditional brick and mortar 3-tier system. So,
Okay.
Okay.
again,
Yeah.
there's so much legal stuff
Yeah,
involved.
there's a process, and you're following that process the way you're supposed to. Yeah, you got to protect yourself. You know,
Right,
CYA.
exactly.
So how much bourbon are you making in a month, in a year? How much?
We did
how much
100 barrels last year. Not all bourbon, but
Okay.
all whiskey.
Okay.
And probably half of that, if not more, was in 30s, correct?
Yep.
So, if you take a look at, actually, I know exactly because it's end of year, and I just did a bunch of tax stuff. We did 2,600 proof gallons last year,
Okay.
and which equates to just over 1,000 cases worth of booze at 90 proof.
Okay.
That is only with cars working. We have had we've had in the past we've run a couple shifts in the distillery because we had some good talent around that allowed us to do that. But right now it's just cars. So
Okay.
we could expand on that considerably if we had another shift running.
It is a one-man show back here.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
Yep.
Man with his fingers on the pulse of Lansing and
That is-
spirits, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
That is it. So what's the plan for the future? Will you get another still? Is there room here for another still?
Yes, actually, if we
gotta go
we
bigger?
upgraded the size of our equipment, we could expand our production 9 times out of
size
this.
matters.
Yes, it does. Always. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So it's possible to expand our production 9 times out of just this. It's probably a 700 square foot distillery area.
Yeah.
But we would need more storage area too. So as you guys saw, we're pretty packed to the gills back there.
Yeah.
So we're already looking at another warehouse facility.
Are you thinking about another location, or you're like, one tasting room's enough, or where are you going with that?
One tasting room is enough. I do have my sights set on one particular location in the state, and if I could get it, I would jump on that pretty quickly. But nothing has presented itself as of yet there.
All right.
Wow. So in the next 5 years, we could potentially see American Fifth, just not in Lansing.
This will always be our home base.
Right. Not just in Lansing, but...
Correct. Yeah, it would be more of a tasting room type thing, not another production facility.
Okay.
So, drinking the bourbon, straight was nice.
Okay.
You guys do a lot of cocktails here. There's a whole crazy menu of cocktails. What do you like to mix with the bourbon?
It really depends. So first of all, we have 50 plus cocktails on our menu.
Okay.
And we add 10 to 12 every month. So every single month, we're always working on next month's cocktails. Okay. And what that allows us to do is use fresh ingredients, seasonal ingredients, keep up with trends better, really just kind of play with whatever tools we have available to us, and always trying to improve. So that being said, it depends. So right now there's a cocktail on there called the Fireplace.
Okay.
Which I think is terrific.
Yeah.
But that is we actually had it that night at the Halls of Whiskey.
Okay.
I think we called it something
I was
different.
drinking straight, but
so that has our bourbon in it, and we make our own shrubs here as well. So we have a Lapsang Souchong tea shrub, and then an elderberry cardamom syrup with some lemon juice in there for acid.
Sorry, I have to say, there's a Festivus for the rest of us in here.
Yeah. And we have fun with the names too.
Yeah.
So especially coming out of the holidays, the one down here, Eucerius Clark, was also a favorite.
Oh, that's great.
What about Grace?
I said, no, that was great.
Oh, okay.
Are you serious, Clark? Oh, all right. So this is we just tried the American Fifth bourbon.
Right.
So
but you said, how many? You said you have like 20 different variations available right now? Or
of whiskeys?
Yeah. 20 plus.
Yeah, we have 10 out right now.
10 out,
Yeah.
okay.
We are releasing 2 next month? 2 or 3 next month? 3 next
Yeah.
month. We're releasing...
Oh, okay.
We're releasing a high rye bourbon next month.
Ooh.
We're releasing a wheat whiskey next month, and we're
Okay.
releasing a spelt whiskey next month.
A what?
A spelt.
Spelt?
Yes, which for some reason people think is gluten free, but it isn't. It's full. It's chocked full of gluten. But beyond that, we have a whole series of malt whiskeys that we've done.
Okay.
We have this.
Probably half a dozen different rye whiskeys too.
Really?
Oh yeah. You remember we were on that rye kick?
Oh, that's right. We did a malted rye. We did a malted rye. We did a smoked rye.
Yep. We did some weird stuff.
Smoked rye, okay.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
sounds interesting.
Yeah, we have I'm going to guess probably 15 to 20 more whiskeys in barrel yet to come out.
Wow, okay.
Goodness.
Amazing.
That's
So
a lot-
what's
that's a lot of
there's one
spirits.
more on the flight here. What's
Correct, yes.
what's next up on
So
the
this is
on
not the
flight?
white whiskey as
Okay.
labeled, but
Okay.
this is our signature malt whiskey. So
Oh, okay.
the reason we are including this is because this is available in distribution right now.
Okay.
So everything we've tasted so far, the vodka, gin, bourbon, and now the single malt, or signature malt rather, excuse me,
Yeah.
is available in distribution.
So if you ask your local party store, it's like, hey, get me some American Fifth Spirits, your distributor pretty easily can just kind of go click, click, click. Oh, hey, it is available, and then
Right.
they can
Correct.
bring it in for them.
Exactly.
Okay.
So this is a 100% malt whiskey. It's a single malt, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Even though America doesn't have a designation like that.
Sure.
But it's the malt bill is pretty unique, and that was by design. So when you distill something, you actually magnify it 30 to 35 times.
Right.
So we used 80% Munich malt. So think Oktoberfest beer.
Okay.
That real high, super intense malty character.
Okay.
We distilled that with 20% honey malt. So honey malt is
That's what it is.
toasted even just a few degrees
That's
beyond
that.
Munich.
I'm getting that honey nose when I'm nosing this.
So
right
this is, I tell people this is a malt whiskey that's going to kick you in the teeth as far as the intensity of flavor. It's not harsh.
Okay.
It's just really, really malty.
now. Oh, love it. Ready?
Yep.
Here we go.
Cheers.
Wow, that's very distinct. They got that honey on the back end there a little bit too.
So I think it's a little bit tannic because of the more of the toast level on that malt.
Yeah, that's very unique in a very good way. Jamie's contemplating something.
Yeah, I'm
over there.
trying to. Am I getting citrus on my tongue afterwards? Is
Yeah.
it?
I'm getting the honey on the back of the tongue, because that's part of that. That's part of that process that you were just talking.
I wouldn't say it's smoky, but I get the char.
Correct.
Sure.
Yeah,
Which would be from the barrel.
yeah. It's not really a smoky flavor, but it's a nice char. It's not overcharred. Yeah,
So on the back of our labels,
my teeth were kicked properly. Thank you.
yeah. There's a lot going on in there.
Yeah. Wow.
yeah, it's interesting. We take this out, and it's not the cheapest whiskey. It's $50 on the shelf as well, but we get some mixed results when we take this out. Either people love it, and it's usually the foodies that love it because, like you said, there are so many things going on
Yeah.
that they see a lot of potential in it. As far as if they're looking at cocktails or whatever the case may be, and then there's people who are just like, whoa, that's just too much. I don't like it. But we did it by design, like I said, because we can.
Right.
Part of the whole thing of the craft distilling movement is ingenuity and being creative, and this is one of the ways that we felt that we could achieve that.
All right. So on the label, this is called what?
This is signature malt.
Signature
Signature
malt.
malt.
So American Fifth Signature Malt.
Correct.
Okay.
The labeling is a green with
It's
gold.
yep.
Green with gold lettering.
Correct.
Almost?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Wow.
Nice. So, we run into this question all the time. How do you suggest people drink this?
I personally prefer it just on the rocks.
Okay.
That's me.
Yep.
I really like this in a whiskey ginger.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it pairs really well.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think we have
All right.
things that we need to try.
Yeah,
Do it
this
into
one's a little much for me to just drink neat.
yeah.
Yeah.
See,
I've told you that before.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot. I don't like to have to struggle through my drinks.
right.
Yeah.
So we did one of the malts that we did is 100% honey malt,
Yes.
and so that's only 20% honey malt,
Yeah.
and then the 100% is like peel your teeth off.
Oh my gosh,
Right.
very sweet almost. Or
Well, no, it's just so malty. Like
Oh.
the intensity of flavor again is just so intense that
Wow.
it's one of the things to me that's like on the upper echelon of
Right.
what you can do with a whiskey.
And so the malt comes from where?
Oh boy,
That one came from Pilot Malt House.
honey malt.
Yeah, the honey malt came from Pilot.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that was Michigan grown
Okay.
barley,
Okay.
malted in Grand Rapids. Unfortunately, that malt house is now out of business.
So this might not happen again.
No, we can get honey malt through other.
channels or
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's a pretty typical
Okay.
brewer's malt.
Sure. Okay.
So we can get it from some of the larger producers out of Wisconsin and Minnesota and stuff.
So now you took us on a tour, and while we were cruising around on the tour, you talked about a barley strain that had kind of gone not undiscovered, but just kind of went not dormant, but people weren't using it. We thought it was lost, and now it's back. Tell me that story
So
again.
that is Spartan barley.
The Spartan barley. Okay.
Back in 1916,
Okay.
there was I don't know what they're called, some sort of scientist at Michigan State that created a new barley strain.
Okay.
That was resistant to whatever chemicals and pesticides were being used at the time.
Okay.
So that strain of barley became the most prolifically planted strain throughout the Midwest and into the Pacific Northwest for barley. Well, 30, 35 years go by, new pesticides, herbicides come along. It isn't resistant to those things, so they moved on to the next strain.
Okay.
So it was basically forgotten about. And then in 2015, there is a current professor at MSU that read about this and did some research, found 5 grams of the seed at a seed bank in, I believe, South Dakota or Idaho or something like that.
Okay.
Right. So brought it back, got that 5 grams.
Don't call it a comeback.
Thanks,
All
LL.
Yeah. I like this.
Brought that 5 grams back and cultivated it enough and grew it until Michigan State was able to do a commercial harvest of it, grow and harvest of it.
Nice.
2 years ago, I think, 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the first harvest was only 5,000 pounds. And we were fortunate enough to get 20% of that. We were the only Michigan distillery, only distillery period to get any of it. The rest of it went to the brewers. So New Holland was the first one to come out with a beer. It was called Russ's Revival or something like that. So if any
I remember
beer
hearing
heads,
a little bit about that, yeah.
So they just released it at their pub over in Grand Rapids.
Okay.
But as it turns out, because of the fact that it's 100 years old, the physiological makeup of the grain itself is far different than it is now. And so it isn't good for beer.
Okay.
And so Pilot, again, this malting house in Grand Rapids was the one that was doing all the malting for it. And all the feedback they were getting back from the brewers was, this is terrible. Stop making this. This is no good. And as it turned out for us, I think it made a really fantastic whiskey.
So what are you using the MSU barley here? What's it being used in?
We call it Spartan malt.
Spartan malt?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the first batch is gone. Then there was a hiccup. We were about to contract with Michigan State for them to grow us all the Spartan barley that we needed, but then Pilot went under, so we didn't have any place to malt it. So since then, there's another malting house now up in Traverse City called Great Lakes.
Great Lakes Malting Company.
So what Michigan State did was they dispersed the seed of Spartan barley, and so any farmer can pick it up throughout their normal seed purchasing channels.
Okay.
So there was a farm or 2 or 3, I don't know how many, up around the Traverse City area that grew it, and then Great Lakes malted it specifically for us, right? Because they weren't going to doing it, or
I think he was doing it for a couple breweries. He didn't mention any other distilleries, so it might be other distilleries, but...
So we do 100% Spartan barley, Spartan malt whiskey that is in barrel right now.
Oh, okay.
Our next batch will come out, I think in August, I think is when we have it slated for, assuming the government opens up.
He's sleeping. He's taking a nap. We'll wake him up in August?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Just in time for football season.
Hey, there you go. Perfect. Well timed.
Yeah.
As long as you can get the labels in time, right?
Yes.
Sorry, too soon?
Stupid government.
Yeah. So, but it's we've talked to people, and it's truly amazing the process that you have to go through to get your blends approved, and then the bottling and the packaging approved. Everything, all those steps have to be approved somewhere on a federal level, right?
Correct. Yeah. There's a few different steps. So. There's a formula approval that may be necessary, may not be necessary.
Sure.
So vodka, you don't have to go through a formula approval. Gin, depending on how you make it, you might have to. Bourbon, you don't. They just assume these are the rules, you're following the rules. Brandy, for example, we're releasing an apple brandy next month that we worked with Virtue Cider out of Fenville on. And we have 4 versions of it. We have what we call naked, so it's an eau de vie style, it's non-aged. We did a French oak spiral experimental aging on it, and we did a used whiskey barrel. It was a 10 or 15 gallon barrel experimental aging, and then we have a bourbon barrel aging on it as well.
Wow.
I didn't know that anytime that you take brandy and put it under the influence of oak, that requires the formula approval. So we were able to get the naked brandy through the labeling process because that doesn't require it.
Right.
But because of the government shutdown and everything that happened after that, the other 3 are now on the back burner.
That's
darn.
It's amazing.
That darn government keeps holding them back.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
So, Cars, distilling. Is there one of the blends that are out right now that's kind of like yours that you came up with the recipe?
Whoa.
Is there one? Is there something out right now? Which one is your favorite of your own?
My favorite. Oh man. So right now, what Rick mentioned earlier, the high rye bourbon that we'll be releasing. Yeah, we have a bottle of it here.
Ooh.
Oh, are we going to taste it now, too?
Yay!
All right.
But the high rye bourbon is mine. I was drinking a lot of, like I said, high rye whiskeys at the time, and I think I was just kind of bored making the same bourbon every day. So I came to Rick like, hey.
He has a pretty short attention span.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. But I came to Rick and I just said, hey, we have all this rye sitting around. Why don't we use it for bourbon?
Yeah.
Something new. Yeah.
Yes, please. May I have another?
So this one's a little more simple than the standard bourbon recipe.
Okay.
What should
so
we-
what's the mix on this?
Yeah. What
So
should
this
we
one's-
expect here?
It's 60% corn, so it's still got a lot of corn sweetness to it, but
Yeah.
it's 30% rye instead of 5, so
Okay.
it's a lot more in your face with the rye spiciness. 10% malt, just because.
So it's just a
Okay.
3-grain versus a 4-grain.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so no wheat in this one.
Yeah. That's the way it's hitting me.
Yeah.
Spicy. Yeah,
I
there's,
got that
there's
spice.
there's a good amount of spice in that. I like it.
I'm speechless over here. So this is going to be released here pretty soon, or is that what we're working on?
beginning of next month.
Getting this one? Fantastic.
And what's the name on that going to be?
It's American Fifth Spirits High Rye Bourbon.
American High Rye Bourbon.
So,
Okay.
It said simple.
Very
yes,
simple.
yeah.
Yeah.
All
It's
right.
interesting though. The government requires whenever you put high rye on a bourbon for some reason. I haven't tried high rye on anything else though. They required me to put the mash bill on the front label,
Okay.
which was I don't know where that came from. It's not in any of the legal language I've read as far as labeling requirements and stuff. But it was just really weird that they kicked that back to me and made me do that. And then I did some research on a few other high rye bourbons, and they're all on the front. So
Okay.
odd. And the thing is, we aren't trying to hide anything anyway.
Right.
We
Even if other people have our recipes, they don't have the exact same equipment as us. They don't have the same taste profile.
Sure.
I do everything by taste in the distillery. It's not entirely scientific.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's more of an art form. Yeah.
No, I'd love that. So, is there something that you want to do? You're like, what's the next thing that you want to do? What's in your head thinking, I might want to try this? What's the next crazy recipe you got?
We've been joking around probably since 2 months after I started. What's that?
Isn't that how all good ideas start?
Yeah,
though? We
yeah.
were joking around about
It's
something.
the when you distill the lees of grape brandy.
Oh, grappa?
Yeah.
That's not a joke. I
No.
didn't find that funny at all.
I'm trying to make grappa.
No.
Yeah. One day I'll convince you.
No. Not on this still. Get your own still.
There you are. I knew there'd be something.
No, grappa's bad. But I still want to try and make it. Just as a challenge. But on a serious note, we're working on releasing a Fernet, which is something that no one asked for.
What's a
It's a
Fernet?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Do you want to take this?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. So Fernet is kind of a minty Amaro, kind of like if you took Campari and added a whole bunch of spearmint to it.
Okay.
Yeah. To a lot of people, it's very medicinal. It tastes a lot like Robitussin.
Okay.
So
Okay.
some people like that, some people not so much. I personally love it.
Yeah, so in the development of that recipe, well, first of all, Fernet is probably most synonymous with Fernet Branca, is the world's probably easily best-selling Fernet,
Okay.
and that is extremely minty. I think we turned the mint down a little bit and went a little bit more bitter. And so the whole process of us determining that recipe, it wasn't quite bitter enough for me, but it was a little bit too bitter for everyone else. So we met at a happy compromise there. But it's one of those things that it's a fantastic thing to mix.
Is it almost a schnapp?
No, it's
Not quite.
it is technically it's a liqueur.
Okay.
But we use just the minimum amount of sugar in it to qualify it as a liqueur.
Gotcha.
And so it doesn't really come out as sweet. But yeah, I'm looking forward to using it in Negronis, and anything else. Oh, actually, Cars came up with a fantastic recipe. It was 2 parts bourbon, 2 parts Fernet, 1 part maple, and 1 part lemon juice.
I think
Oh
it
my
was
God.
not maple, it was honey.
Honey,
Yeah,
okay, yeah, it was absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And
So who comes up with the recipes for all your signature cocktails here?
just the staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many people do you have? How many bartenders do you have slinging drinks in this place?
Well, we have, I think, 10-ish people
Oh, wow, right on.
that work in the tasting room, and we require them to come to, we call it BevDev, Beverage Development.
Okay.
And we meet 2 times a month, and
This is what I'm making.
they have to come to one of them and come with some ideas. And the thing is, there's no ego involved. Sometimes they hit it out of the park on the first try. Other times you got to work on it 3, 4, 5 times. And we all have the common goal of just making the best cocktail possible.
Right.
And so when they're presented to me, and I ask, what's your goal with this? What are you trying to do? What sort of flavors are you trying to pull out of this? And then let's work in that direction. So it's a lot of fun. There's not a lot of an established talent pool in not only Lansing but most of the Midwest when it comes to cocktail development. It's growing just because of the resurgence of cocktail culture. Right. But so there's a lot of learning that's involved or attained as well.
Yeah, bang ideas off of each other and
Oh, yeah.
kind of just make something that's going to be potentially good for the community and what have you.
Correct.
All right. I like that.
So we had the whole flight in front of us. We played through that. There was an array of bottles on the table. You said there's a few things for us to try.
So we did the high rye bourbon.
Yes,
we did.
Sam stuffed that one in the bag.
That one is
When he's not
Wheeler
looking,
Rye.
grab that one.
Wheeler Rye?
All right.
So let's do this one next.
What,
All right.
what is this?
So this is
Well, I'm sorry. What was the
Rick,
alcohol?
what are you
was the
doing
percentage
here?
of the?
Yeah, what's the
that was
what's the
90 proof.
90
Yeah,
proof.
get a damn
Okay.
label
The
on
high
that
rye
thing,
bourbon
all
was.
Sorry.
So we're gonna do. This is the Syrah barrel finished malt whiskey that I spoke about.
All right, so
before we
tell us
started.
about the barrel, the Syrah barrel.
So
Is a winery in California?
correct. Yes,
But
Bruce
Michigan
Russell.
roots. with
Bruce
the family.
Russell is the winery. He's also the winemaker or winery owner. I met him at a Made It in Michigan extravaganza or something. I don't know what you call
Okay.
it.
These are clean glasses for us. So
And,
All right, cool. Yeah, perfect.
So his family has owned property in Russian River, California for 50, 60 years or something like that.
All right.
And through people passing on and whatnot, it's come into his control. And they've been growing Syrah on there. So if you guys know anything about wine, Russian River is mostly known for Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. So Syrah being the really hearty grape, a little bit more bold, a little bit more tannic. It's not really known to be grown there. His Syrah is absolutely gorgeous. And so I stayed in contact with him after I met him and kept bugging him about getting some of those old barrels. And
Hey,
so
you have one in the back right now.
I had one. Yeah, we bought, I think out of that vintage he had 12.
Okay.
I think 12 or 14, I can't remember. And so the shipping to get them from California was going to be the same if it was one barrel or all of them. So I just took all of them.
Sure.
And then we sold the rest of them off to cideries and a few breweries and things like that around the state. But yeah, we put some malt whiskey in this and let it sit 8 months, I believe.
Yep, ended up being 8 months.
Yeah. And so this is a Syrah barreled finished malt whiskey.
Okay.
Wow. Cheers, fellas.
Cheers.
Cheers.
This is 88 proof, I believe, right? 88.5 or something like that.
Yeah, whatever it came out of the barrel at.
Yeah.
So this was a 59-gallon barrel, which is pretty standard wine barrel size.
But twice the size of what we normally
Right.
deal
Correct.
And it's sat for 8 months, you say?
Yes. So just finished in it.
Yeah. It's got a really nice nice bite on the end of it. Really nice spicy bite. Not a bad bite in any way, shape, or form. It's just it hits you, and it stays there for a few. It really does.
with. Yeah, it really
very good.
kind of adopted that dry red wine
Exactly.
flavor.
Yes.
Which
I-
was the point.
Yeah.
I like the fruit quality of it because that's all the wine barrel aspect of it.
Yeah, yeah, you're right with the dry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just it sits there for a while, just like like a red wine would do a little bit, right?
Yep.
So these are things that are on the horizon coming out soon? Hopefully. Why are we going to license it?
Yeah, that one I don't
6-8
even know.
months?
That one I don't know. We may have to get a formula approval on that one. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Because it was finished in a different barrel. I don't.
Right.
I have no clue.
That just maybe holidays and parties for the family, right?
Yeah.
We have more. I'd like to sell it.
But yeah, that's
It's worth selling.
that's interesting. Because sometimes you can just send them the recipe. We did this in this barrel, and X amount of this and X amount of that. But sometimes they actually want a sample.
That is true.
Have you run into that where the government has asked you, we need a sample of that?
Yeah. On two things in particular.
What do they do with it? Do they taste it? Do they throw it in the hyperbolic chamber and the?
Bring me another.
Because if they're tasting it, I want that job.
Well, the two things that they've asked for are the absinthe and the fernet. And the reason being is because we have wormwood in those.
Okay.
So, do you guys know the story of absinthe?
No. It can kill you.
No.
Oh, fair.
Well, I mean, yes, if you drink enough alcohol, it'll kill you.
All right, what's the story on absinthe?
So absinthe was banned in the United States and most of Western Europe for about 100 years.
Right.
And I want to say, I think it was 2010. I think it was legalized again. There's multiple reasons it was banned. One of them being it was thought to make you go crazy. So
okay, crazy killed. One of the two.
So, and wormwood was the ingredient that they thought did that.
Okay.
But there is an actual psychoactive element within wormwood. It's called thujone.
Okay.
The situation is, though, that there's actually 50 times more thujone in sage than there is in wormwood.
Fair play.
It was.
They blame the witch trials.
That's why I
in Salem on that.
sage.
No, they blame
they?
they blame the witch trials in Salem of the madness to the wormwood.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. It's one of the theories.
It's a history lesson. I love it.
Yeah.
Bring it.
So there was that aspect. Really, they didn't have the science to test it at that point.
Right.
There's still that stigma, which is why we have to send it into the government. If you want to know more about it, it has to do with the French wine consumption and everything, too, that led to the ban as well. And the whole temperance movement was right around that time as well. So absinthe was extremely, extremely popular in France and Western Europe. And the French wine industry was losing market share because of it. And so, therefore, they wanted to end that.
Right on.
Wow. Now I know about that.
That's because you're waiting on some packaging and approval for some of the things, and with the shutdown, it doesn't help.
Not at all.
It slows the process down. It's just it's amazing the government involvement in our lives.
Yeah.
Just give me a drink, damn it. Quit.
But for a whiskey and a bourbon, we're still waiting, which is not a bad thing for for spirits. So it's we want to get things moving.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what is this third one that we have?
So the third one is this is 100% Wheeler rye. So
it's a lighter color.
It is a lighter color.
Caramel,
which is really amazing.
Caramely color.
Yeah.
It's reddish in the high rye there.
The high rye has got more of a deep reddish, and this is more of a
caramel, lighter
flavor.
caramel.
Caramel look.
So this is a very particular strain of rye that is only grown at the farm that we work with in Elsie, Michigan.
Okay.
I'm not real sure what the legalities of owning a strain of rye is, but they're the only farm in the world that does it.
Oh.
And as it turns out, it makes a beautiful rye whiskey.
Huh.
Now, how did you find Elsie and what they do?
Oh yeah.
It was through they basically approached us.
Okay.
It's a family owned farm for 150 plus years or something like that now. And through, I think, some business networking thing, a friend of a friend kind of introduced us, and then they came down and said, hey, we have this rye. You want some? And I said, yes.
Okay.
So
why would I say
no?
No
hesitation, yeah.
So the initial plan was to include it in our bourbon mash bill. And then Cars is a huge rye drinker. Rye's not my thing. But we decided to do 100% this, and as it turned out, it's really, really fantastic.
So this is 100% rye?
Yep.
100% Wheeler rye.
Wheeler rye.
Yes.
All right, so very, very specific. And so, Cars, was this your harebrained idea?
Kind of.
All right.
I guess, yeah.
I would never think to do anything 100% rye.
Yeah, no, it's horrible to work with. Like, most ryes.
So what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean it's horrible to work with?
Rye is a very protein-heavy grain.
Okay.
So in processing it and mashing it, when you have a starch-heavy grain like corn or like malted barley, it kind of breaks down and becomes very soupy instead of like thick oatmeal.
Okay.
With rye, it just kind of turns into glue. Yeah.
Wow.
It's really low yield, so based on a batch of this 100% rye, we are lucky if we get half a barrel of finished product.
Wow, okay.
Whereas with bourbon, we can fill a barrel off every batch, more or less.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
So what should we expect with this?
Honestly, I haven't had this one in months now.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Is this available?
Nope. Label.
Okay.
Label issue.
Label issue? Okay,
Yeah.
so we're waiting on a label.
Yeah.
All right.
But I mean, it's rye, so it's going to be super spicy.
Sure.
Okay.
And I snuck a sip while you guys were talking.
Dare you.
I think the fruit quality on this one comes across pretty nicely,
All right.
which makes it a little bit more palatable
Cheers. I've been saying that a lot.
Yeah.
You're driving home, Sam.
Thanks for being here, Sam.
Our producer extraordinaire.
Oh
for me. So I don't think it's
There.
overly spicy.
no,
Yeah.
the spice is there, but it's not overbearing. It's sitting on the top of the roof of my mouth at the moment.
Right.
So
Yeah, I think this particular rye really comes through more of like a dry cookie kind of thing, like a tea cookie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
it's
you're
it's
super
not
poetic.
very sweet. Oh, yeah, thanks.
this is well done.
Yeah,
It's very
thank
well
you.
done. Right? I've never had 100% rye. That is very well done.
Yeah, there's a reason people don't really make 100% rye.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Because you
however-
have, it's so, there's so much shit to talk about. It's like we've been,
up and down.
back there when we were talking, I was like making notes about things I wanted to hit and talk about. And you have the fermenting tanks back
Yes.
there. You have 3 different fermenting tanks. So where in the process does a fermenting tank take place? So what's the process, right? There's 3 different stations back there, yes?
Yep, more or less. Yeah.
All right.
So there's 3 stations, but 4 major steps.
Okay.
First step is mashing, which is where we
In the big mash tank.
Yep, we grind everything in the parking lot,
Oh.
mix it with hot water and enzymes, turn the starches into sugars. Once we cool it down at that step, we add the yeast and put it in those fermenters,
Okay.
and that's the boring step where you just kind of sit and wait.
So the interesting thing about the fermenting tanks is I was looking and they have like different names on them.
Yeah,
And I was like, what's with the names? And it's a very Lansing thing. So what's the story with the little names on the tank? What is that?
So the government requires us to distinguish each tank that we have.
Okay.
So it could be as simple as fermenter number 1 or 5 or whatever, however you want to call it. But I chose to go a little bit more Lansing centric. So anyone that's ever driven through Lansing
Right.
has seen the 3 giant smokestacks,
Yes.
Yep.
and they have a name. So I want to say it was back in the 20s or something like that.
Right.
The State Journal, the local newspaper here, did a naming contest for them, and they settled on Winkin', Blinkin', and Nod, which is actually a poem from that era. It was a very
Yes.
popular children's poem from that era. And
But it's written very Germanically too. It's
Is it?
like
Winkum.
Y's and umlauts and
correct,
shit.
yeah.
Yes.
So, in an homage to those, we named our 3 fermenters that
Okay.
because, I've been told, the 3 smokestacks are going to come down eventually here in town
Oh.
because they're not being used and they're not efficient and all that stuff. So,
Right.
we'll lose one of our landmarks, but it will
We'll
continue
be
to
the
live
new
here.
landmark.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you should have that on the outside here, on the
Right.
Windows side. You need to make big stickers. You need to get the American Fifth Spirits logo, but then have their names on them. People can, because they're just small, like 1-inch high letters up at the
celebrate
top of them.
celebrate those guys.
And yeah, so Lansing people, they're suckers for that kind of nostalgia. So trust me, I spent enough nights in the peanut barrel to know they're suckers for the nostalgia. So yeah, that was the thing. The names of the barrels is I had to have you share that story.
Sure.
Winkum, Blinkum, and Nod.
Yep.
All right, so that's very cool.
Oh man! So after a nice, liquid dinner, you always want to finish a meal with a good dessert.
A liquid dessert.
Is
So
that where
maybe
we're
a liquid
heading
dessert.
next?
Yeah.
Let's
so
do
are we going to head there next?
Yeah, let's
or
do
what are
it.
your thoughts? All right.
All right, so this one is, again, labeling issues. And
No, we have the label on this. The government isn't
printing
the
issues.
issue. This one, the printer is. The
Ah, it's
issue.
the printer on
That's
this
right,
one.
yes. But this is legally it's salted caramel cream liqueur.
okay.
But it's really a salted caramel white Russian.
Ah.
So we have a cocktail on our menu called a salted caramel white Russian that has turned into our most popular cocktail of all time.
Wow, okay.
All time.
Of all time.
Okay.
To date. So we decided to replicate it as a liqueur, and that way people can just buy it and take it home in a bottle and just open it and pour it.
And you want to serve it chilled. Is that correct?
Is it still not quite as cold as it was earlier?
Yeah, you're good.
So we use. There's coffee concentrate in here from Blue Owl Coffee Company, which is a Lansing-based coffee house that's now getting into roasting as well.
Oh.
So we utilize their coffee concentrate, and we've concocted the caramel flavor and the salt and everything to mimic the cocktail as close as we possibly could. And I think we
All right.
kind of hit it pretty closely.
Oh, wow.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers, fellas.
Cheers.
I am a sucker for a salted caramel, whatever. And I'm still a sucker for.
So
for
we
it.
did our wholesaler
Nice.
hosted us at a couple
Really,
of Michigan
really good.
State football tailgates this past
Yeah.
fall, and by accident I discovered that if you mix 3 parts this to 1 part our bourbon, it's heavenly.
Ah,
It is majestic.
I know what
and
I'm going home with.
It's really amazing.
nice.
My wife would really enjoy that. She's always been a Bailey's type person, but
Yeah.
I think this is the like 4 steps above whatever Bailey's can do. This is beautiful.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's fun. It's one of the things that we can do in the tasting room for people to take home.
Yeah.
It's easy for them to do because some of our cocktails are 4, 5, 6, 7 ingredients, and there's techniques and muddling and dry shaking and double straining and all kinds of stuff that's really intimidating to people. Being that this is being that this is the most popular cocktail we've ever made, just make it easy for them.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
that was special. It really was special.
a nice finish. So, but you partnered with the coffee house on
Correct.
that one, and you source a lot of the stuff from Michigan as much as you can,
As much as we can, yeah.
Right.
and that's fantastic. But then when you're done with this stuff, you again, we were back there on the tour, and you told me an interesting story about all the pulp and the residue that when you're done, normally that's just headed for a landfill, right?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I've reached out to farmers in the past to pick up our spent grain. Basically, is how we refer to it. So
Sure.
after we get done with we strip the whiskey. All we have left over is boiling hot water, spent grain, and a bunch of protein. It's not anything we could do anything with any longer. So what we do is we pump it into a 300-gallon container. We fill that thing up, let it cool, and then we pump that out the window and put it in the back of our cargo van where we have another one of those containers. We're just going to let it flow all over the place. And then we take that to the anaerobic digester. So we dump it into the digester at Michigan State.
Yeah.
And they harvest methane off of it. They convert the methane to electricity.
Wow.
They pump the electricity back to the grid for the university. That's
So
step one.
you're recycling is very
Yeah.
good.
It's
Yeah.
very green.
So that's step one.
Love that.
The next step for them is they pump it into another larger silo where it dries and it turns into compost. And then they spread it on the fields out there because if anyone's seen Michigan State, the whole south end of the campus is just big fields and everything.
Yeah.
So they use it as fertilizer out there in those fields. We're trying to be as green as possible. On that front, we have very, very little. We have actually no waste whatsoever. It's actually
Great.
technically a byproduct. So we don't dump it down the drain. We don't put it in the dumpster or anything like that.
It's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that, taking that process. It might cost a couple extra bucks to do that for you guys.
It's
but
absolutely
it is,
free.
Is it really?
Well, I mean, Cars gets to go over it. And if you ever been to an anaerobic digester, it's not a place to take a date.
Yeah. It sounds very scientific and like a clean facility. it's a pit in the ground with a propeller somewhere in there. It just mixes organic waste.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, it's a fun trip.
Just the time spent, that's where to do all that. That's the cost involved, but it's well worth it.
Yeah, and it's one of the things. So when I first started understanding what goes into a distillery, I went to a seminar here at Michigan State actually, and the first thing they said is you need to find a place to put your distillate. So you can make the best whiskey in the world, but you can only make so much of it if you don't get rid of your trash.
Right.
Sure.
And we're really, really fortunate to have that anaerobic digester technology available to us through Michigan State.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Fantastic.
All right, Cars, I got to ask you, I see your tattoo. It's very, very visual for a podcast. So there's a cat on it. We have another show called
We got
there is another podcast out
Animal.
there.
There's another show called Animal Talk. All right, so
Okay.
what do we got happening here? We got
so.
I was
Oh
like,
man,
it's
the same tune
this is
Oh my
three
God.
cats in a folk band. Actually,
Holy crap.
yeah,
3 cats in a folk band?
three cats in a folk
What's
band.
the name of the band?
Oh God, no, I don't know.
So what's the
Didn't
story
get that
behind
far.
the tattoo?
The story behind this tattoo is I had two of my very good friends from when I lived out in Wisconsin promised me that we would all get tattoos of our respective cat
Okay.
playing our respective instrument,
Okay.
and they backed out. And so I just got all 3 cats on all 3 instruments.
Dude, that is
Yeah.
like so cool. 'Cause
And I
there's a
hope
cat
they
playing a
hear this so I can
banjo-esque sort of
call
thing.
them out. Yeah.
There's a cat playing a bass on a big wash bin sort of thing.
wash bin, bass,
and then,
banjo, and
another one playing the
washboard.
washboard.
Yeah.
Yep.
If
and
I
they're
if
sitting
I
on
could
a
be
big-
so bold, that's the original Stray Cats right there.
I think it is.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Cars, thanks for mixing it up
Oh, of
so
course.
well for
Yeah.
us. Rick, thank you for having us into your house
Absolutely.
here. This has been pretty amazing.
I appreciate you guys making the drive up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll, drive up anytime.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. I think that was like I got more notes, but hell, we've been rolling for a while.
We're out of booze, so there's nothing more to talk
Oh, well,
about.
there's full bottles on the table. I'm going for round 2. But no, thank you so much for having us. It's very informative. People can find it all around Michigan. Just ask your party store
Yep.
to get it.
Social media is American Fifth on all platforms. Website's American Fifth
Yeah,
Spirits.
Facebook is American Fifth. Instagram's at American Fifth. Same thing with Twitter. And then the website, www.americanfifthspirits.com.
Correct.
So, yeah, check these guys out. This is really special here. It really
So,
is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thanks for hanging out in the Man Cave Happy Hour. Like us, if you're listening, if you've tormented yourself for this long, make sure you go to wherever you're downloading your podcast, make a comment, do the little thumbs up, ring that bell. I don't know. That's YouTube, right, Sam?
That's a little YouTube thing, yeah.
Sam, we're like the embarrassing dads for Samantha. Ring the bell, right? That's YouTube. But all right, but like, subscribe, leave a comment. It helps. We appreciate it. ManCaveHappyHour.com, and we're on the Twitter and the Facebook as well. So find us there.
Yes, sir.
Jamie and Matt. It's
Matt and Jamie, we are here. We love doing this. We love learning about what's going on locally.
You guys are doing a good job, too.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
gentlemen, cheers.
Cheers, fellas.
Cheers.
Gotta make that clinking sound. There we are.
Yep.
There it is.